11 or 11:30, it was just pouring. And as we come down Highway 10, it rained pretty hard, but then we turned and went down 9 towards Ada and just slowly let up.
So spotty this year.
Don't see mine.
I had 4.1 in the gauge on
Were
Saturday.
they different?
Oh, really?
Wow.
Where's that from, Marvel? Yeah. 4.1, and that's just from like Saturday to like,
Wow.
from like 3 to midnight.
We might have had point one.
Wow. Yeah.
Might have.
Yeah. I got this.
Well, the hail and that stuff
Brewed
today,
up
at least
today.
at the bus garage, nothing
I mean,
to
I
write
still
home
might
about.
go.
But
Might have to.
kind of waiting for it to start growing though. Like, okay, it usually starts like this, and
Builds up.
You got 6 steps at the farm out of Dwayne's, but make it all right.
I feel like
All right,
there's
6 o'clock, I'll ask everyone to stand and say the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let the minutes reflect that all council members are present with the exception of Scott Erickson. First item of business on the agenda is the citizens forum. If there's any individuals from the community that would like to address the council, now would be the time to do so. Seeing that there is none in chambers, we'll wait a couple minutes until Facebook Live catches up, so. Alright, we'll give it a few minutes. Mike, any stories from WeFest you wanna share in the meantime for the audience?
Publicly, yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk pretty safely.
Looks like that soap or that foam machine you guys have or whatever is popular.
Just like the bubbles at the front end of Flatlands. So
Yeah.
come on, check them out.
it's the same guy.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Good?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he has a good time with that.
Nothing.
Alright, we'll leave it open just in case someone chimes in, we'll pause, but, for the time, or for the business of time, we'll, move on to the consent agenda. Letter B, prepaid checks in the amount of $1,062,144.57. Again, 1,062,144.57. And letter C, the accounts payable, $48,581,009. Again, 48,581.09.
And I just wanna point out the reason why the prepaid checks are so high is because we did open some CDs. In case anyone's wondering.
Yeah, so if you guys look in,
Whoa.
if you look at the packet in front of you, we had some CDs expiring.
Yes.
We, reissued them because of obviously the interest rates at the local banks,
Mhm.
so, they are all included in there, so I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. And a motion from Sean and a second from Josh. Any questions from Ashley? I will say this, we are in the process of doing it at all 3 banks, local banks.
Mhm.
So we did kinda keep our money dispersed evenly throughout the community, so, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. On to the agenda, I have no additions or subtractions unless anyone from the council has any. Hearing none, I need a motion to approve.
So move.
Okay, a motion from Kim, second from Sean, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Brandon, you're up first, more engineering.
Just got 2 things for you guys tonight. First one, update on the sewer project. Construction status update. They've got about a half dozen manholes left that I think the current plan is to finish this week. A little bit of relining that is gonna be done either later this week or next. And then basically, and then some paving for some of the spots. There's like 2 paving spots. And that's basically all they have left on the project. Once they're done with everything, they'll apply for substantial completion. We'll do a substantial completion walkthrough and basically do a punch list and then work toward final completion. One thing though with the paving, being that they gotta bring a paver back, they haven't had a schedule yet, and working with Brian, being as you guys may have some additional asphalt patches that you might wanna do next year, we asked if it was okay with them if they wait until next year and maybe pair that together. That way the city can get some patches done when they come back next year when there's a little more budget for it, and then you save on some mobilization on the paving contractor, being as they're already coming to town. So working with Brian on that, we haven't nailed that down yet, but that's one thing we're working through with that, and it's just the 2 spots. So I know he didn't have an issue with it. We talked about it at the Public Works Committee last Monday, so. And I don't know if anyone else has an issue with that, especially if
The
it,
ones on West Main.
It's over here, right? Yeah.
How big are the spots?
they're just spot repair,
Oh, okay.
say digs. So they'd be gravel over the winter, so there is, you have to deal with that a little bit, in those individual spots, when things get wet, but they're not terribly large spots, so they're not that big of a pain in the butt. And I think the general thought, talking with Brian, talking with contractors, again, if the want is there for the city to do some more asphalt patching on their own next year, it kind of brings a contractor to town, which should hopefully save you some money on those. So we'll nail that down in probably the next couple weeks. So, from a budgetary update, now that we're kind of nailing everything down, it looks like we're gonna come in about 30 grand under budget is what I'm looking at. Again, conservatively, hopefully it's a little bit more than that, but things always come up. But that's kind of where we sit today, projecting the project out to the end. Any questions on status stuff? I got a change order, a pay app, and our invoice to go over, but where we're at today, is there any questions or comments, concerns, things need to bring up with them?
So you're thinking end of next week, then, everything will be complete?
From what, with the exception of the paving.
Yeah.
That's kind of the schedule that we had talked about at the meeting last Tuesday.
Okay.
So,
Good.
okay. So then I've got 3 housekeeping items. The first would be change order 4 for $45,587.81. Just more items that had come up during. They're in your packet, and I think there's kind of a breakdown of what all those entail. There was one manhole that had a lot of infiltration, so in order to do the rehab, the spin casting on that, they had to inject it to stop all the water that was flowing in there. Way back in the day, you guys used to have a combined storm sewer and sanitary sewer system. And so some of these sanitary manholes that they got into had old abandoned storm lines that were coming in. So to make that rehab and close those storm lines off, there was a number of plugs that were installed by the contractor, basically to seal off the old storm connections. There was those 2 extra spots that were open dug that we're waiting on the paving for. And then Brian had a couple of spots that he wanted some extra televising on, and so while the televising contractors were here, we had that done as well. So my intent was to put it in front of the Public Works Committee last Monday. It was just the 2 of us, so didn't have a ton of discussion other than, because it was mostly with Brian, who we'd worked through to get to this point. But if you guys have any questions or anything, I'd be happy to answer, and then I guess I would look for a motion, if there are none.
I need a motion.
So move.
Okay.
Second.
Motion from Josh and second from Casey. Any further questions for Brandon? This is in the amount of $45,587.81. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes.
Okay, then the next item would be contractor's application for payment number 5, in the amount of $276,821.45. It's basically everything they've done to date, less retainage. So after this, there's about $150,000 left to pay them out. Of that, about $60,000 is the retainage that we hold. So just pretty standard, it's what they've done today, but there'll probably be 1 or 2 more pay applications here. There'll be a catch everything up and then a final, or just everything on a final, just depending on how the timing works out.
Okay. Any motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion from Sean,
Second.
second from Casey. Again, this is, in the amount of $276,000, $821.45. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, and then the last thing there would be our invoice, for construction services to date in the amount of 17,000. So, it's in your packet too. I'd ask if you guys got any questions, kind of it's the, say costs we've incurred, the effort we've put in, and, yeah, look for the motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the 17,000 for more engineering.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Josh, and a second from Sean for Brandon's cut of 17,000, right?
Yeah, if you just wanna make that out directly to me.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I got some stops to make on the way home there.
Motion passes. Alright, anything else for more?
One last thing would be, towards the end of the year here, we're starting to look into some funding lists for next year and the following. Some of them was include the LRIP Local Road Improvement Program. There's some stormwater planning, say grants that are out there. I'm sitting down with our funding specialist here to kind of go over all of my cities, but I'll probably just say work with you guys if there's anything that makes sense to look to get on lists. And so, just because so there's a process with all that funding. Just because we apply for something doesn't mean we're doing something tomorrow. So it helps to look into the future and go, okay, if we get on something today, that means in 2 years or 3 years that money will hopefully be there. So that's all I got. If anyone's got anything for me.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
Alright, Brady Martz.
Are there any checks to us today?
Well, actually already paid you, right?
I sent out
Sign up.
the audit in your guys' packet, but if anyone wants like a hard copy to look through, I've got some.
Okay.
Casey, I'll- Kim?
Kim, you want one?
What's that?
Yeah, hard copy.
Please, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'll probably do the same song and dance that you've seen the last few years as far as getting through things relatively quick. And then it provides a little bit of time at the end to ask questions if there is any. There's two reports. The first one is a loose handout, or I'm not sure if that is in front of you or not, but it's our audit committee letter. It looks very similar to what you've seen in prior years. No new accounting policies that affected the city during 2022. The estimate within the financials that's subject to change is the net pension liability, and I think we've discussed that in prior years, affecting your proprietary funds. So that can swing up and down quite a bit based off of changes within actuarial assumptions, etc. No difficulties performing the audit, no disagreements with management. So that letter, like I said, pretty much the same thing, updated the dates. Diving into the audit report now, pages 1 through 5, or 2 through 5, excuse me. This is the auditor's report, and we've issued an unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis of accounting. So that's considered a good opinion on regulatory basis, which is allowed for cities your size. And basically, if you remember, the difference is instead of having a full accrual statement of net position and activities, you have a cash basis for your balance or for your governmental funds. Just probably a little bit easier to read and understand anyway. So that is our opinion is on the the regulatory basis of accounting, and that is considered an unmodified or good or clean opinion. So starting on page 6 and 7, this is the balance sheet for the governmental funds. Once again, on a cash basis, or not a cash basis, but it does not have your fixed assets, long-term debt, those kind of things. All the way at the bottom, for the general fund, 2 lines from the bottom is going to be your fund balance for the general fund, $791,805. The line above that is your unassigned portion, which is basically the available to spend portion. It's not tied down for any restricted purpose or earmarked. That number, as compared to the prior year, was up about $58,000, and that's of course after transfers that were moved into there too. But it's about 38% of your general fund expenditures right now, which is, I guess, considered healthy. So a lot of cities have fund balance policies, around that 25%. So definitely, as far as this is concerned, considered healthy. The other funds that you see here are all positive, broken down for different things, like committed for capital outlay, debt service, those kind of items. When we get to the back of the financials, you have one fund that runs a deficit that we'll talk about a little bit, but all the other funds are positive. Page 7 then, this is the changes from the prior year. 3 lines to the bottom, you can see the general fund overall was up $74,587. The other funds that you see on this page were all up as well, and this is after transfers. I think the general fund did have a transfer for about $426,000, which was budgeted. And we'll kind of compare how you came in compared to budget as far as the year end is concerned. The next few pages then roll into your enterprise funds. So basically your funds that are to make money, so to speak, water and sewer, light and liquor. If you look at the bottom of page 8, your total net position overall was a little bit under $4.2 million for all your enterprise funds combined. Of that number, if you go 3 lines from the bottom, you can see the net investment in capital assets, about $2,996,000. That is basically your net position tied into your fixed assets or your buildings, equipment, net of the debt that's related to them. So all in all, you have unrestricted net position of $1,195,973, with not tied down for any special purpose. Bring this up just because it didn't really affect your city, but there was one new accounting standard that was new related to leases. So if you ever hop into a lease, there is some new bells and whistles that affect this financial statement, so just kind of keep that in mind, or maybe give us a call as to what that might look like for audit and that kind of thing. And we're talking significant leases, not like copiers and those kind of things, like if you lease some land or are the lessor for something. Page 9 then shows the changes in that position, 3 lines to the bottom. The water and sewer fund was up $18,403. Light was up $167,607 after transfers, and liquor was down about $1,500. The other thing to keep in mind is we do have differences between the net pension liability running through here as well. So we'll just have to watch out on the liquor fund. If you run a deficit in there a couple of years in a row, you do have to have some kind of public forum, so just keep that in mind.
We were positive last year, and this year, we went down just by the time we reconciled all of our cost of goods sales and everything, we went down a little bit, but.
And I'd
positive
also
last year.
be curious to see, I didn't look at the numbers for the net pension liability, how much that changed, because it could change you up or down.
Okay,
But if that's the change, I think the state is trying to pull that out of there, because it's a non-cash item, so.
okay.
But I guess we'll maybe cross that bridge when we get there. Hopefully next year's a better year. But when it's basically to break even if you look at it, $1,500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Page 10 then shows the
33 off, so.
changes in your cash flow. And so about halfway down the page, you're going to see the decrease in cash and cash equivalents. All in all, $1,421 was a positive cash flow. This is obviously subject to changes with purchasing fixed assets, paying off debt, those kind of things. Liquor fund did actually go up $17,211 in cash flow. So some of that loss is depreciation, those non-cash items. Pages 11 through 30 then are footnotes to the financial statements. Probably won't go through any detail unless there's questions, but things like significant accounting policies, lots of information on your pension liability related to your involvement in PERA, fixed asset schedules, those kind of things. Pages 31 and 32 shows your differences between your general fund budget to actual. And so the column all the way to the right shows where you came in at. So about halfway down the page, you're going to see total revenues were $83,106 better than budget. A couple lines below that, it includes all the transfers and sales of capital assets. So your revenues were $54,606 total over budget. Then if you flip to the next page, about a third of the way from the bottom, you can see expenditures, $65,686 over budget. And then your transfers out ended up being about $42,000 over budget as well. So all in all, at the bottom of the right column, $53,403 under budget from what you had expected. So combination of a couple things, but you can kind of see where those items got broken into. Looks like a lot in police protection, et cetera, for things that came up during the year.
Well, those we used to go with 24.
Pages 35 through 38, this lists out all the funds that weren't necessarily broken out at the front of the financial statements, are broken out here. And so this is where I'll just point this out on page 36. The event center does have a deficit fund balance of $101,351. It went down about $7,600 from the prior year, so basically at some point in time, you might wanna look at a transfer or, some way to make that fund whole. Right now,
So-
it's basically borrowing money from somewhere else.
When you say it went down, Brian, it went down from 108 then roughly down to 101, or it went from
Sorry.
93?
It went from 93
Yeah.
to 101.
So down in the bad way.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
we had talked a little bit with Sarah about our tax abatement
'Kay.
policies and the funding that we have there, and talked about that we're supposed to be using it. And talked about potentially, and we can talk about this when we budget plan, but doing a transfer from there into this fund. Because
Okay.
it can be used for, downtown revitalization, and the event center is downtown revitalization. So, just something, it's not 101,000, that's not the total amount, but.
Yeah, I think the main thing is just to make sure that there's some kind of plan in place. Some places decide to eat a little bit of it every year, others try to just take it in one shot. So, I mean, in total, once again, your cash is fine, it's just which funds it gets broken down into, and if you've got some funds somewhere that's earmarked for this and wanna make that transfer, it'll obviously make that look better, and then, I don't know, some programs or places are going to run deficits, but it brings other things to town, so, it's not unusual, but wanna just kinda throw that out there that there might be some decisions to be made at some point to transfer money there, so.
Well, and just so the council is aware too, Ashley, we've talked about this at the EDA meeting in regards to some of this stuff, so it's on Ashley's radar, we know it's there, so, again, in the coming weeks and months, as we start talking about, budget moving into next year, we'll have to start considering what to do with that.
Okay, sure. Page 39, this is just another snapshot of all the different funds that you have and kinda gets broken down. So it's kind of a nice, it's not detailed for all the different revenues and expenses that you have, but it does get broken down by where your fund balances lie. So at the column all the way to the right is where you ended the year at in each one of those funds, which then should tie back to the rest of the financials, but like I said, just a snapshot of it being broken down here. Page 40 is a nice summary of all the different debt issuances and activity during the year, so no new debt in 2022, paid down about $527,000 of debt, and basically just right on payments all according to schedule. Page 41 starts basically our last section of the report, which is Minnesota Legal Compliance Letter, which is first. State of Minnesota provides us with a guide to go through. We did have one finding related to some old outstanding checks that, once you get past 2 years old, outstanding checks have a requirement to get sent into unclaimed property at the state or reissued. So just kinda keep that in mind. I don't know if they're material necessarily, but to take a look at them, either figure out if they need to be reissued or if they just need to be cleaned up. But if they are, legitimate checks to be sent out there, they should be sent to the state as unclaimed property at some point in time. So
Are
that's
you
what that is.
referencing checks that we've sent out
That
that have not
we've
been
said
cashed?
that
Correct.
haven't been cashed, yeah.
Yeah, and there must be, some old ones, like over a couple years old, so,
Yeah.
sometimes, they're small checks, but problem with the state of Minnesota's guide is that there's really no materiality limit for us, so it's either a yes or no. So, just kinda keep that in mind, that there is a policy and a standard or a process to go through for that. And I don't have the numbers in front of me to know how big,
No.
how many checks there are, so. And then lastly, pages 42 and 43, this is the, government auditing standards report. I think we just have the same 3 findings that we've had in prior years. This is like a high-level overview of your internal control structure of the city. So, us preparing the financial statements, separation of duties within the finance office, and then material account reconciliations are the 3 findings that we have. So, just what we look for is things in place to help mitigate those risks, which would be, you know, council approval of bills, review the financial statements before we issue them, review the reconciliations before we get them, those kind of things, so. And those I don't believe are new for this year, so, any questions or comments or thoughts?
Any from council or? Ashley?
No, I've seen this a million times.
So basically, the city of
It
Ada
takes like 3 months
gets
to do.
standards right now then? I mean,
Yeah, there, like I said, there's, the only red flag per se is the one fund that's sitting at a deficit to keep that in mind. But other than that, there's nothing that, you know, when we compare to other cities your size, it all comes back pretty normal.
okay, good.
I'll just say this, these pages have gotten about 10 times thinner in the last couple of years, so it's,
Have they?
yeah, Ashley's doing a good job. Any other comments, questions, concerns from the council? Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright, moving on to, administrator clerk treasurer's report.
Thank you, Brian. Alright, department updates. First I wanna highlight a couple things. National Night Out last week went very well, except for our little rainstorm, but they did donate all of the, pulled pork and the hot dogs and buns and everything left over to the Deco Center. And last Thursday, then Brianna brought it to the flea market and did kind of a free will donation and raised over $600. So that was a nice little chunk. And then our liquor store, we are up a little over $1,000 in profit. So last year we had, for the month of July, $16,330.51 in profit. This year we had $17,094 in profit. So inching up every month, which again, the profit portion, our sales are higher, but because our margins didn't change and the cost of our goods have gone up so high, so we're still doing really well as far as sales go. Next big thing on the list, as you guys have probably all heard, Reed is retiring. So his last day will be August 30th. This month he is taking vacation because he's got a lot of vacation time, so he's not around, but I would like to discuss what we should do as far as next step goes. My suggestion is Monday we open the position up, put it out there for 2 weeks, see what we get. If we get some good candidates in 2 weeks, we can sit down with a committee, preferably the Public Works Committee and Brian and myself, do some interviews. If 2 weeks goes by and we don't get very many candidates, or we do some interviews like we kinda did with the police department, but we just find out that we kinda wanna still keep looking, we have a little bit of time. The main goal is to make sure somebody's in there before the snow falls. I mean, as far as pay and everything goes, we go based on our union contract, so there's not much else to put in there other than putting out the position itself. So, if you guys are okay with that, I will list it. I can list it tomorrow too. I just thought Monday was like a clean date, 2 weeks.
I think Monday's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll put it out there.
I think that sounds good.
And then if we get applications back, I'll probably have, unless you wanna appoint a different committee.
No, Sean and Casey got it.
So how many years was Reed with us?
So it is, they're 32 years.
Okay.
So once they hit the 30 years, and so I will be planning like a retirement party for him. I'll let you guys all know. The last day is a Wednesday, and so I plan on having, cake and opening it up to the public for people to stop by. So we haven't had a retirement in a while. I think Brian Johnson was the last one. And that was,
Brian and John Campus, yeah.
John Campus was not here when I was here.
Yeah,
Brian
he's
was,
been gone
or
for a while,
Johnson,
yeah.
so that was maybe 7 years ago, so yeah, just so you guys know, keep an eye out on that. I think everybody is sad to see Reed go, but we understand. So, okay, I'll get that done then, and I'll have Brian communicate with you guys.
Yeah, you two are good now?
Yeah.
Okay. Budget planning meeting, so it is August, we need to set a date.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays seem to work best, I think, for everybody
Mhm.
at this table. You guys have a preference? That last week gets busy, and obviously the longer that we push this off, the more of you guys are gonna get involved in fall work, so that's not good either.
You're talking in August still?
I'm talking maybe next Tuesday.
Give me one to the 22nd, I think. You could give me to next weekend, I guess.
22nd. Can we do it a Wednesday?
I was gonna say, can we do the 23rd then?
That's fine. As long as when we discuss kind of what your recommendations are, they aren't super crazy, I can get it done by the 15th, by next week.
I won't be around next week.
My Wednesdays are, anything in August is pretty good for me, Wednesday, but I mean, I can make Tuesdays or Thursdays
So how
work
about
too.
the 23rd?
Yep.
I see a lot of head shaking.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
What time,
Evening or?
how long do
Midnight.
these go?
They're
30
fun.
minutes, 4 minutes.
Okay.
They're not too
Yeah.
bad.
I didn't think.
Everyone's good with 23rd?
Sure.
And actually, do you guys wanna start a half hour earlier,
Start at 5:30?
or
Yeah.
5? Would that help?
I can do after 5:30 would be there.
5:30?
5:30.
Sure.
5:30.
That
Let's do
sounds good.
5:30 on the 23rd. Okay.
Okay, no, because you can set it.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking for you guys, I mean, I've been through the budget. Right now, we're sitting obviously very well, but we're 6 months in. Almost all of our accounts, other than a few in our street departments and some of our, like summer accounts that we work with a little bit more, like some, but everything else is sitting really well. What do you guys wanna see for next year? Keep in mind, there's a 3.3% COLA increase, so that's gotta go up no matter what. Keep in mind that, I mean, gas is still up there, we're seeing, right now, we're anywhere in between 60 and 70% of our budget's used already for gas and fuel. So keep that in mind. We did have a lot of it's taken over from our snow plowing season, which was crazy. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind that our workman's comp is probably still gonna go up one more year at least. So that's gonna be an increase.
And keep in
So-
mind, people on fixed incomes are still on fixed incomes, and interest rates are rising still.
Keep in mind, we cut a lot of budget last year.
And we still have room. Remember, we can't go down, we can always give Ashley some recommendations. I think last year, I asked for 3, 5, and 7.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's all right?
Can we do?
We can start at 0, 2, and 4 if you guys want to.
Yeah, right.
3, 5, and 7.
I would say 3, 5, and
Maybe
7.
we'll start at 4 and go up from there.
4, 8, and 12.
There we go.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to kind of point out too, I mean, we've already, for next year, already have discussed our large purchases, which we're gonna be talking about the bid, for the loader, and also the police vehicle are two things that we've really discussed. Other than that, those departments don't have anything large that's gonna be needed next year
Yet.
yet. So as far as like Public Works goes, I mean, if you wanted to break down, I mean, what Brian needs to know is like, I mean, technically there's so many things that could be replaced. What do you guys wanna see? Do you wanna replace it when it's absolutely has to? Do you wanna replace it before it gets to that point? Because it seems like a lot of times we wanna replace it when it's needed, not when it's wanted. And so, that I kinda need some direction on, because obviously there's just so much equipment out there. Same with the deco. I sent you guys out a little bit of kind of just what Brianna's thoughts processes over the next 5 years. Some of them are, you hang on, we thought we'd have to purchase furnaces 3 years ago and they've been hanging on. So you just never know, what's gonna be needed. With that being said, I wanted you guys to get a look at the Deco Center's purchases, because, our Deco maintenance fund is running low. We're sitting at 70 grand in there right now. And we're looking at equipment like the, pool pack that was, when we purchased it last time, was 160. It's probably,
300.
yeah, by now. The tuck pointing on the building is huge. Last year, her and Brian went through the whole top of the building caulking it, but that moisture's getting in, and you can see where the building gets taller from the shorter, on the roof, like the brick is sinking in. So all that stuff is gonna have to be done. It's just like, and obviously we've talked about the hot tub, we've talked about that stuff. It's just, do we wait till it's has to be done, or do we do it before? So not that we have to decide anything today, but when we budget plan, we wanna make sure that we're thinking ahead to if some of these things were to happen.
The tuck pointing has to be done on a very regular basis.
Yeah,
You can
so
lose a building fast.
she's been trying all summer to get somebody there, and it's been a struggle. So I don't know if we'll get anyone there this year, but when we did tuck pointing, or when I was there and I did tuck pointing back when we were doing a lot of the remodel, we put like 20 grand into it.
Yeah, it doesn't go very far.
No,
It takes a lot, I know.
So, anyways, just wanted you guys to keep that in mind when we meet next week or 2 weeks from now. Anything else with budget that you guys wanna see?
I guess I would just encourage all of you guys just to really look through those line items when Ashley sends them out, because there are places we can cut. There are places, as Ashley mentioned, we are over budget already and we're only in August, so, if it's moving funds around, if it's cutting from one area to save in another and vice versa, I mean, there is some avenues to still keep the cost down and still trying to be proactive on all this, but, again, we have to be proactive on some of this stuff with the DECO and the Public Works Department. For reference, this loader that we're about to talk about, what we've spent in the last 3 years compared to what we're getting on trade, it's a red number, it's not black. So there is a point, at some point, we need to start cutting our losses on some of this stuff and spending some money, so even you guys can convince me of that.
And even with, I mean, we have different views on the levy, but even if we don't increase the levy, when we do purchase some of these larger equipment, it's our long-term capital, so it's a transfer, and it's usually coming from our electric fund. So could we transfer from that into our, long-term at the end of the year? So that wouldn't affect a levy increase if we paid for it that way. So like when we do our capital outlay line numbers in a general fund, does that make sense? Anyways, we'll have a budget planning meeting and we'll discuss more.
Okay, moving on to, new business, Kaleidoscope guests for August, Sean and Kim,
Yep,
Thursday at 9.
should be.
We're gonna agree with that, okay. Benedictine Fun Run,
This happened on Sunday. We've always given, and I don't know if Cassie didn't get it to me before July or I missed it, but it's going back in reverse, I guess.
so I need a motion for $500.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion from Casey and a second from Sean.
Gambling fund,
Yep.
just so people know.
We should get we'll get an update maybe next month, just to see what we have an idea of off the top of your head. what it is.
No, it was over 10 grand the last
Yeah,
time it was.
so keep that in mind again as we try and do what we did last year to try and get it down to a minimal amount. That if there are community organizations or, events out there that need help with some fundraising, we do have the money available, so.
'Cause we gave 5 grand to the historical society last
Yep.
year.
Okay, so I got a motion from Casey and a second from Sean, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes.
And it's still over 10 grand, Ashley, roughly?
Yeah.
A lot of gambling in this town.
Gambling fund goes.
Alright, resolution
Wild,
twenty
wild
twenty-three dash 01, or 08-01, the resolution certifying the grant and loan request from the EDA. We had an EDA meeting, 2 weeks ago. And, the EDA, approved a loan request in the amount of $15,000. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, a motion from Josh,
Second.
second, Mike. Any questions? By roll call vote, Mike,
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Sean.
Aye.
Casey.
Aye.
Kim.
Aye.
Resolution 2023-08-01 passes. Letter D, request for variance. In front of you guys, it's in your packets. There's a letter out obviously from the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. I am not gonna read it unless you guys want me to.
No, so I've spoke a lot with this Christie, and they're doing this project for them. And so in our zoning ordinance, it does say that every lot has to leave at least 30% of green space. And doing this project, it is not a structure, but it is a ramp, and so technically it's taking away the green space of it. As you guys have probably know who she is, there's some disabilities there, and it's very much needed in that home. So they're writing to us to request that the city grants the variance, so they're allowed to go ahead and build this ramp.
I need a motion.
So move, yeah, go for it.
Second.
I have a motion from Sean and a second from Casey. I guess my only question, I hadn't thought about this on the last couple that we have done, if they sell the property, do they have to get, does the variance retract? Does it go back to original?
No, the variance would be grandfathered
Okay.
in, yeah, so.
This is something that would be removed, you would think, right, though? In
Well-
this case, not like another
Yeah.
garage,
This
not,
might.
you know what I
but
mean,
the
like
last
in
one
this
we did-
case.
The last one we did was, Chisholm's garage.
Right.
Was the structure,
Yep.
cause the garage was higher, and obviously you're not gonna remove that.
Right.
So,
But
but
this
no,
one's a
it
little
goes,
different.
it's,
So it's grandfathered
it's
in from here on out?
yes,
Okay.
on that property.
Any further questions? All in
Nope.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Department updates, Public Works.
So I'll dive into it.
Um,
Before we talk about the loader, little update, Matt has been trapping quite a few of the beavers from back out there. Brian has been in talk with the fairgrounds, the golf course, the county about some cost sharing that's gonna go on along with that. So Vissers eventually will be cleaning some of that out to get the water moving, so.
So we've been approaching the watershed district on this for like 5
3,
years.
4, 5, yeah.
At least when I was intern, we started it here, and now there's more people willing to contribute because
It's
it's
better.
outside the city of Ada limits, but it is affecting some of the things inside city limits, so.
So payloader bids, I'll just break into it easily, and then Casey and Sean, you guys are on the public safety, or, Public Works Committee, you guys can dive into it a little bit further, but, you guys all have the bids in front of you, obviously. Brian got 3 bids, obviously, from, General, Ziegler, and RDO. Just numbers, just so that I'm in front of you before you guys talk, General was at 218,950, Ziegler was at 193,917, and RDO was at 246,42. Again, those were before the attachments. That second email that Ashley sent out included the final number.
With one small update to the Ziegler.
One,
Yeah.
one piece of
That
equipment.
has
So
to
the
do with
Ziegler
outcomes.
cannot have
The snow pusher and
Yeah.
the forks are different attachment
so
hookups on
then
there.
they, with the trade-in of ours to them, it would be about another 2 to 3 grand on top of that price.
Yeah, so I talked to Brian today, so that he'd like to trade in the forks and the pusher, I think he mentioned his duty as well. The old forks and the old pusher in for new forks for the new one, and he wanted up to 3,000 just to give a little leeway, so that number would be in addition of $3,000
Yeah.
On the Caterpillar.
on the cat,
On the cat, yeah.
which, talking with public safety and, or Public Works and Brian, that's kind of the route that's recommended for me.
Yeah, that's what
Yep.
we were recommending. The other one, the other one that's closer bid is, you know, not in town, I don't think we should even look at it. It's gonna be
For
a
ma-
lot of money for maintenance to get
Maintenance is
that
the
thing
biggest
here,
key
have
on that.
somebody come here to fix it. And then the other one that's in town is way higher than the other one, you know, like 40
Quite a
grand,
bit.
45 grand higher, so.
The thing is the loader through Ziegler has, you know, Brian's kind of been pretty diligent about going through and making sure that the specs are kind of up to snuff on what we're gonna need now and into the future on it, cause this is gonna be a long-term purchase. So, between everybody in Public Works and Brian, everybody else there, everybody kinda feels comfortable with that Ziegler bid.
And just just so we're all on the same page, the Ziegler bid is in the amount of $232,656.29 with the additional $3,000.
With that.
That's including the $3,000 with the forks and pusher. Again, the old forks and pusher are no benefit to us because they don't fit the attachments on the new one. Questions?
I'll lay the motion on the table to approve the Ziegler bid.
Okay, and motion Casey. I need a second.
I'll make the
I'll second, oh, go
I
ahead.
can do
Okay.
that.
I got a yeah, I got a motion.
Let's
from
go
Sean.
for it.
Casey, that was in the amount of $232,656.29.
Correct. Yes.
Anyone wanna know how we're gonna pay for it?
New levy.
No, come on, Mike.
Are we gonna go with that 12% next year or what?
No, we're not.
Long term,
Not
it's coming
the
out
other
this
side.
Long
year.
term capital this year.
Coming out this year, long-term capital. So with all of these, and with Ziegler, I was told, or Brian was told that we could get this before winter.
It'll be
Hopefully
here.
November.
Yep.
So, we would have to pay for it with this year's budget, not next year's budget. So long-term capital is where we'd have to take it from. But it is very much needed, as we could see from last winter.
It's time, we can't Band-Aid that thing around anymore, it's gotta go.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, we spent a lot of money that we probably
We should've done this last
should
year.
have done
maybe.
this a few years prior probably. But like John mentioned too, that's something we gotta probably take in consideration on a lot of these things going forward.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
Well, also, we had to fix it in order to trade it. though.
Correct.
So, even though,
Yeah.
The worst part was
We still
just-
lost $10,000 on the
I was
deal
gonna
from
say,
what
we
fixed
probably,
it, though.
Yeah.
it was
Is the
30
problem.
grand to fix it, right?
55 over the last 3 years is what Brian said, and we got 45 for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But again, when it's
And we
snowing
rented.
5 feet,
What do you do?
you know, we need it, so it's
Yep.
kind of a work of peace, and we live and we learn, and hopefully this one lasts us as long as all of you guys are on council, and we move on.
it's a long time.
That's a lot of time. All right, I got a motion from Casey and a second from Sean.
So is this gonna include with the attachments and everything too?
It'll-
That's everything.
It'll be ready to go, yep.
Yep.
Ready
Yeah.
to go?
Yep.
Okay.
Cause the stuff doesn't fit on the new one.
Yep.
They all have their special couplers.
Okay, I got a motion from Casey and a second from Sean in the amount of $232,656.29 coming out of long-term capital. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Public safety.
Steve gave us an update on the grant they got for the SCBA's. People will be there next Monday, so the 14th, to start that process of fitting us and picking a vendor, I guess you could say. I think generally there's probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 vendors that'll show up depending on, and then we'll figure out which ones are the best fit for us. We had some talk about a school resource officer talk. I know the school talked about it today too. Nothing was really decided yet, I guess. I think it's kind of just
Yeah, so.
in the
if it-
works, and it didn't sound like there was gonna be anything for this school year probably.
No.
If it was to happen, it would be for the 2024.
There needs to be
5-year.
some big discussions between us and the school.
Right.
Together. I know that Steve has had some discussions with them, but we would need to, as bigger groups, sit down and see,
The money wise. of it.
yes.
Yep.
Okay.
We did have some conversation about some golf cart, misuse, I guess, let's call it. They've been cracking down on, number one, a lot of underage kids driving it, just not licensed kids. And then a lot of people on them, just too many for what are, supposed to be on there.
Sure.
And, maybe a little too much, not too much, like infants sitting on laps going through town with them. So, sounded like they cracked down on that pretty hard the last week and a half or so since we've had this meeting. was about all we talked about. We talked about the old squad car again, but we'll deal with that when it gets here.
That's a heavy discussion too, yeah.
So,
EDA?
We had a request for a loan, which you guys just passed, for $15,000 for a new business that's coming into town. And we did approve, 3 demo units. And, apparently they got all pretty well taken care of or whatever, or they're in the process of it. And we do still have money left over in our fund for demo units, so if anybody needs something tore down, or, even a new business coming to town, or storefront loans or whatever, we still have money for that, so. Get a hold of the city office.
You're the president.
Yeah, but you got all the facts and figures in that form.
Kim's cell phone's on our city website. Beautification.
We met, let's see, it was, last month, middle of last month. And, had a lot of discussion, talked about, the headstones being fixed and straightened in the cemetery. Talked about the signs and rules, regulations that'll be put up there. Also had an individual for, talk about an Eagle Scout project, that's hopefully gonna be done. And then talked a little bit about the, East Side Park and, the walking path and, decisions on that. Also talked about, let's see, looks like Bosworth Park and the rock removal. Got rid of all the rocks along the edge of 9 in Bosworth Park there, and got that leveled out and planted in grass. So that was
And Josh, who took on the job down south end of town here with the header deal? By the golf.
that I don't know
I think
because
the
that,
Walters family did it.
that wasn't, we didn't talk about that at the meeting, so I'm not sure.
Never came up, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I
Do
drove
you
by
know?
and
Well,
Do you know?
Walters.
The new sign,
Walters
I
did,
know,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure they did, yeah.
was that a private? You said that was a private?
I believe so, they just did it, yeah.
Walters?
Yeah, like Shane, the ones that cut grass,
Oh, yeah?
whatever the mowing.
Italy.
Yeah, that's what it is, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
They did it on their,
Wow,
Okay, it looks nice.
yeah.
yeah,
You
it's
know.
awesome to see.
I don't know, do we send out a letter of appreciation for it or anything like that, or what? Or can we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna send one then to Kurt Jacobson too, for all the years he did it.
Yeah.
Right.
Both.
That's true.
Yeah.
I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion from Scott,
Second.
second from Sean, all in favor?
Alright.
Meeting is adjourned. We need more batteries down here.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you do have